The water splashed across Belle's front before she even realized what had happened. The cup slipped from her fingers, crashing to the floor with a dull crack. A stunned silence rippled through the station. Droplets gleamed on her coat, her face, her hair, shimmering like shattered glass under the fluorescent lights. Dr. Holly's hand was still raised. Her expression didn't waver. Cold. Composed. Only her eyes betrayed her satisfaction. "Oh, my mistake," she said sweetly. "You startled me, Miss Belle. You should be more careful." Belle froze, every muscle in her body taut with shock. The cold liquid clung to her skin, seeping through her collar. She could hear the distant beeping of a monitor, the shuffle of shoes somewhere down the hall, but in this moment, everything narrowed to the sharp, metallic sound of water dripping from her sleeves. Dr. Stan looked at her with mock sympathy, his lips curved into the faintest smirk. "Are you all right, Miss Belle?" Phil, who had been reviewing a patient's chart nearby, stood abruptly. "Doctor!" "Phil!" Belle's voice cut through the air. Calm, deliberate. Her hand trembled slightly as she brushed her coat, forcing composure into every movement. "It's fine. I'll clean it up." She turned away before anyone could see the sting in her eyes. But Dr. Holly wasn't done. "Miss Belle," she said again, her tone sharp as a scalpel. "Clean the floor properly. We wouldn't want anyone slipping, would we?" A few of the nurses exchanged uneasy glances. No one dared speak. No one ever did when Dr. Holly was in one of her moods. Belle knelt, her fingers tightening around a towel. Each wipe against the cold tiles felt like swallowing pride, one bitter gulp at a time. Yet, beneath the surface of her quiet obedience, something was shifting. Slowly, silently, like a tremor deep underground. When she finally stood, she straightened her coat and met Dr. Holly's eyes. "Excuse me, doctor," she said softly and walked away. Her calm frightened them more than her anger ever could. In the locker room, Belle peeled off her soaked coat and hung it over a chair. The mirror showed a woman who looked composed, but only barely. Her chest rose and fell fast, her jaw clenched hard enough to ache. She sat for a moment, gripping the edge of the bench, willing the tremor in her hands to stop. She had worked too hard, studied too long, sacrificed too much to let anyone, especially people like Dr. Holly and Stan, break her. Her phone buzzed. "Ethan Redhart, how's my doctor today?" Belle's throat tightened. She stared at the message, trying to swallow down everything that wanted to spill out. She typed back, busy. "I'll text later." Almost instantly, the dots appeared. "All right, but don't skip meals again. Love you." A small smile tugged at her lips despite everything. Ethan's messages always carried warmth like a blanket she could crawl into. But she couldn't tell him what was happening here, not yet. He'd tear the hospital apart if he knew. And right now, she needed to handle it herself. The days that followed were a quiet war. Dr. Holly's hostility turned subtle, precise, surgical. She'd correct Belle harshly for errors she hadn't made, assign her the most tedious, draining tasks, question her in front of consultants just to make her stumble. Dr. Stan, emboldened by the invisible shield of his lover's protection, kept finding reasons to be near her. His voice always carried that oily sweetness that made Belle's stomach churn. One afternoon, while Belle was reviewing post-op notes in the chart room, the door clicked softly behind her. "Miss Belle!" Her pulse jumped. She turned. Dr. Stan leaned casually against the door, arms crossed, a slow grin spreading across his face. "Doctor," she said tightly, "I'm in the middle of work." He stepped closer. "You work too much. You should relax a little." Belle moved around the desk, keeping distance between them. "If you'll excuse me." "Why are you so uptight?" he murmured, following her step for step. "You think no one sees the way you look at Ethan Delville? I've seen your photos. Your internship file says you live at Delville Estate. Quite a coincidence, don't you think?" Her heart lurched. "How do you—" "Oh, Belle," he drawled, smiling wider. "You think your secrets are safe? Dr. Holly and I have our ways. Imagine what the press would do with that story. A young intern living with a billionaire." Belle's fingers curled into fists. "Are you threatening me?" He tilted his head. "Not at all. I'm offering you an opportunity. Play along, and no one has to know." For a split second, she saw red. Her palm cracked across his face before she even realized she'd moved. The sound echoed through the room like a gunshot. Dr. Stan staggered back, hand flying to his cheek, eyes blazing with fury. "You'll regret that," he hissed. Belle stood tall, voice steady as steel. "No, doctor. You will." Then she walked out, heart hammering, refusing to let him see the tremor that ran through her. That night, she returned home late, exhausted and silent. Mr. O greeted her at the door with his usual gentle bow, but his brow furrowed when he saw her face. "Young mistress, you look pale. Shall I prepare some tea?" "Please," Belle said softly and made her way upstairs. In their bedroom, Ethan was just finishing a call. He looked up the moment she entered, reading everything in her eyes before she could say a word. "Belle," he said quietly, crossing the room to her. "What happened?" She tried to smile. "Nothing. Just tired." "Belle." His tone deepened. "Don't lie to me." The tears came before she could stop them. Silent, heavy, unstoppable. Ethan caught her as she crumbled against him, his arms closing around her like armor. "Talk to me," he murmured. "Who hurt you?" Between shaky breaths, she told him everything. Dr. Stan's harassment, Dr. Holly's cruelty, the humiliation, the threats. Each word made his jaw tighten, his hold on her grow firmer. When she finished, he was silent for a long moment. Then, very quietly, he said, "They touched you?" "Ethan, don't." He pulled back, just enough to meet her gaze. His eyes were dark, controlled, but she could feel the storm building behind them. "Belle, I'm not asking permission to defend you. I'm asking how far you want me to go." She pressed her palms against his chest. "You can't get involved. If you do, they'll say I'm using you. I'll lose my internship." Ethan exhaled slowly, fighting every instinct that screamed at him to burn the hospital to the ground. "All right," he said finally, "but I won't sit still. Let me protect you my way." Belle nodded, knowing there was no winning this argument. By morning, the first tremor had already reached the hospital. An anonymous email circulated through the administration office, detailing inappropriate conduct by two doctors, Dr. Stan and Dr. Holly, supported by time-stamped CCTV footage near the restroom corridors. The evidence was damning. The affair, the favoritism, the neglect of duty, it all unfolded on screen. By noon, whispers filled every corridor. By afternoon, the director had summoned both doctors for questioning. Belle kept her head down, pretending not to hear the chaos. She knew Ethan had moved quietly, efficiently, like the man he was. Still, a part of her worried. When Dr. Holly entered the ward later that day, her face was a portrait of fury barely restrained. The once flawless confidence now cracked. She swept her eyes over the interns and landed on Belle. "You," she snapped. "My office. Now." Phil half rose from his chair, but Belle shook her head. "It's all right," she said quietly. In the office, Dr. Holly shut the door with a bang. "What did you do?" she demanded. "You think I don't know you're behind this?" Belle blinked, genuinely taken aback. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't play innocent." Holly's voice cracked, her composure slipping. "You think your little billionaire will protect you? I'll make sure no hospital ever hires you again." Belle met her glare steadily. "I'm not afraid of you, doctor. I'm afraid of becoming like you, using power to humiliate others." For the first time, Dr. Holly faltered. The words cut deep, because somewhere beneath all the vanity and anger, she recognized their truth. "Get out," she whispered. Belle left without another word. 2 days later, the hospital's disciplinary committee suspended Dr. Stan and Dr. Holly pending investigation. The story never made it to the press. Someone powerful had ensured that. But inside the hospital, their reputations were ruined beyond repair. Phil and Shine hugged Belle the moment the news broke. "Justice served," Shine said with tears of relief. "I can't believe it's over." Belle smiled faintly. "Almost." Because even as peace returned, she knew the wounds ran deeper than gossip could heal. She had survived humiliation, fear, and manipulation, but she had also found her strength. That evening, back at Delville Estate, the sunset poured gold through the tall windows. Ethan stood at the balcony, hands in his pockets, watching the horizon burn in amber light. Belle joined him, resting her head against his shoulder. Thank you, she whispered. He turned slightly. For what? For fighting for me, even when I told you not to? Ethan smiled, soft but unrepentant. I promise to protect you, Belle. That includes protecting your peace. She leaned closer, breathing in his warmth. I want to finish this internship. I want to earn my title, my name, without anyone saying it was because of you. And you will, he said firmly. You've already proven more strength than most people I know. Belle looked up at him, her eyes glowing in the dying light. What if they come after me again? Then they'll have to go through me first. The words were calm, but there was steel beneath them, an unspoken promise. The wind swept through the balcony, carrying the scent of rain and roses. Belle's laughter broke softly through the stillness, fragile yet bright. For the first time in weeks, she felt light again. Below them, the city lights began to bloom, one by one, like stars awakening. And in that glow, Belle Delville, once a quiet intern from nowhere, stood beside a man who would cross any line to see her safe. But fate, as it often does, had only given them a moment's calm before the next storm. Because somewhere across town, in a dim bar filled with a stench of bitterness and cheap liquor, Dr. Stan lifted a glass and smiled darkly at the news broadcast flashing before him. They think they've won, he muttered, a cut blooming on his lip where Belle's slap had landed. But I don't lose that easily. He took a slow sip, eyes narrowing at the headline that named him suspended. Let's see how long the princess keeps her crown. Rain hammered against the glass walls of Delville Estate that night, steady and relentless, as if the sky itself was washing away the sins of the week. The storm rolled over the city in low, rumbling waves. Ethan stood in his study, his back to the fire, sleeves rolled to his elbows. The flicker of the flames cast sharp lines across his face, power and control drawn in shadows and light. Papers lay scattered on the desk, hospital reports, legal drafts, silent weapons ready to be unleashed if anyone dared to touch Belle again. Behind him, the door creaked open softly. Ethan! Belle's voice was quiet, fragile in the thunder's growl. She stepped in, wrapped in his oversized shirt, her damp hair falling in waves over her shoulders. He turned instantly, and his face softened. You should be resting. I couldn't sleep. Nightmares. She shook her head and walked toward him, her bare feet soundless on the marble floor. Not nightmares, just thoughts about everything that's happened. Ethan drew her close until her head rested against his chest. His heartbeat was steady, strong, a sound she'd come to trust more than anything. You did nothing wrong, he said quietly. You handled yourself with grace, Belle. I'm proud of you. I wish it didn't have to happen at all, she murmured. I came there to learn, not to fight battles. That's what life does, Ethan said, brushing his thumb along her jaw. It gives us wars when we least expect them, so we learn what we're made of. Belle looked up at him, eyes glistening with something between exhaustion and affection. You always talk like a man who's fought too many. He smiled faintly. Maybe I have. For a while, they said nothing. Outside, lightning cracked through the clouds, lighting up the world in silver streaks. Inside, the silence between them was thick, but not empty. It pulsed with comfort, familiarity, and something deeper neither dared name aloud. Morning brought a fragile peace. The sky cleared to a soft blue, the scent of wet earth drifting through the open balcony. Belle sat at the breakfast table, hair tied neatly, scrolling through her phone while Mr. O refilled her cup with coffee. Anything interesting today, young mistress? Belle smiled faintly. Just news about the suspension. Everyone's still talking about it. Mr. O nodded knowingly. The hospital is abuzz, I hear. Your name, of course, has not appeared anywhere. Master Ethan's men ensure that. Her smile faltered. I didn't want him to interfere, but I'm grateful he did. Mr. O's eyes softened. You remind me of Madame Delville when she was young, strong-willed, but with a heart too kind for this world. Protect that balance, young mistress. It's rare. Belle glanced at him curiously. Did you know her well? I served her since she was 16, Mr. O said quietly. And I watched Master Ethan lose pieces of himself when she passed. It warms me to see him smile again because of you. Belle's chest tightened. He still misses her, doesn't he? Every day, Mr. O replied, his gaze distant. But now, he doesn't mourn alone. Before Belle could respond, her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Hello. A pause. Then a low, familiar voice slid through the line like oil. Miss Belle. Her stomach dropped. Dr. Stan. Congratulations on getting me suspended, he said, his tone mocking. You and your billionaire friend must be celebrating. But remember, what goes around always finds its way back. Her pulse quickened. If you call me again, I'll report you to the police. Police! He laughed, dark and amused. You think your fairy tale man can protect you forever? You'll be out in the open soon, little dove. And when that happens... The line went dead. Belle sat frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear. By the time Ethan returned that evening, he found her in the garden, sitting beneath the old jacaranda tree, the lavender petals strewn across her lap. She didn't hear his footsteps until he spoke. You look 1,000 miles away, he said gently. Belle looked up. Her eyes were troubled. He called me. Ethan's calm cracked instantly. Who? Dr. Stan. She swallowed hard. He said things that felt like threats. Ethan's face darkened. He's making contact. Yes. He exhaled slowly, forcing control. Did you record it? No. I wasn't thinking. Ethan took her hand. From now on, every call, every message, she sent it to me. My team will handle the rest. I don't want you getting dragged into this again, she whispered. He cupped her face, his touch firm. Belle, you are my business. If someone threatens you, they're threatening me. I won't apologize for protecting what's mine. The words hit her deeper than she expected. Not possessive, but fiercely loyal, almost reverent. She nodded slowly. Okay. 3 days later, the first shadow moved. Someone leaked Belle's internship photo to a hospital blog, just a harmless feature at first, promising young interns in the surgical department. But beneath the comments, whispers slithered in. Isn't that the girl living with Ethan Delville? They say she's his mistress. No wonder she got in so easily. By the next morning, the story had reached social media. Her name, her face, her past, dragged through endless speculation. The hospital's HR was forced to call her in. Miss Perez, the HR had said cautiously, we understand this may be distressing, but we need clarification. Are you in a personal relationship with Mr. Ethan Delville? Belle's throat felt dry. Yes, she said, finally lifting her chin. But my internship was earned through merit. You can verify my credentials. The woman nodded awkwardly. Of course. We just need to manage the optics. The press has started reaching out. The press. Belle's world tilted slightly. She left the office, feeling the weight of eyes follow her. Even the ones who once smiled now looked at her with curiosity, envy, judgment. That evening, she didn't go straight home. She wandered the city instead, through quiet streets and flickering lights, trying to find air she could breathe. She ended up at the riverbank, where the water glimmered in the fading dusk. She sat on the cold stone ledge and whispered, I worked so hard for this. Why does it all feel like it's slipping away? The wind didn't answer, but her phone did. Ethan, where are you? You missed dinner. Belle, I just needed some air. Don't worry. Ethan, stay where you are. I'm coming to get you. 15 minutes later, his car pulled up by the embankment. He didn't say anything at first. He simply opened the door, stepped out, and wrapped her in his coat. She leaned into him, trembling from the cold. I didn't want this, she whispered. The attention, the gossip. I just wanted to be good at what I do. Ethan held her tighter. You are good. Let them talk. Their noise doesn't define you. It could cost me my position. Then we'll build something better, he said, voice low but certain. I'll fund your own clinic if I have to. A place where no one can touch your reputation. Belle looked up at him, eyes wide. You can't keep fixing everything for me. He met her gaze. And you can't keep carrying the world alone. The tension between them broke like a dam. She pressed her face into his chest, tears soaking through his shirt. I don't know how to be strong all the time. Then let me be strong for you, he murmured. The next morning, Ethan's response to the media firestorm hit like thunder. Every major outlet received a statement from the Delville Group's PR office. Mr. Ethan Delville confirms his personal relationship with Miss Belle Perez, a licensed medical intern. Any implication that her professional standing was influenced by him is false. Legal actions will be pursued against parties spreading defamatory claims. Within hours, the gossip sites fell silent. The smear accounts vanished. A quiet dread settled over those who had whispered her name with malice. At the hospital, no one dared speak when she passed. Some offered quiet smiles, others looked away in shame. Phil grinned when he saw her that afternoon. "Boss move, Belle. You're trending for the right reasons now." Shine added with a laugh. "Dr. Stan must be foaming at the mouth." Belle smiled faintly. "I just want peace." But peace was never something the world handed freely. That evening, a courier arrived at Delville Estate with an unmarked envelope. Inside was a photo, grainy, taken from a distance. Belle, in her white coat, standing outside the hospital, talking to a male patient. Across the photo, scrawled in red ink, "Pretty face, dangerous hands. You'll lose more than your job next time." Ethan stared at the photo long after Belle had gone to bed. His jaw flexed once, twice, then he made a call. "Marcus," he said, voice low. "Find him. I don't care what it takes. I want Stan before sunrise." By morning, Stan was gone. No one knew where he'd fled. Not the hospital board, not his colleagues, not even Dr. Holly, who had vanished from the city herself after the scandal. Ethan received a single message at dawn. "He's out of the country. For now." But he didn't relax. He knew men like Stan. They didn't vanish. They waited. And he also knew Belle's heart. Soft, forgiving, unwilling to believe someone could hold such venom. He'd have to protect her without her even knowing. 2 weeks passed. The hospital slowly moved on, and so did Belle. She focused on her work, her patients, her studies. Her laughter returned, bright and easy. Ethan watched her from afar some days, silently in awe of how she could endure so much and still shine. But one evening, as the sun dipped low and golden light spilled across the garden, Belle found something on the back terrace, a bouquet of white lilies wrapped in plain paper. She smiled at first, thinking it was from Ethan, until she noticed the card. "You looked beautiful when you were scared." Her fingers went numb. The petals trembled in the breeze. Far across the street, a figure stood by the trees, half hidden, unmoving, watching. Inside the house, Ethan's phone buzzed with a security alert. He looked up from his desk. The cameras had picked up motion near the eastern gate. He rose instantly. "Belle." But the garden was empty when he reached it, the lilies scattered, the paper blowing across the grass. Only one thing remained, a small, silver cufflink gleaming under the fading light. Ethan bent to pick it up. Engraved on the back was a single letter, S. His eyes hardened. This wasn't over. Night descended like a secret that refused to stay hidden. The wind pressed against the tall windows of Delville Estate, whispering through the corridors as though carrying warnings only the house could understand. Ethan stood on the balcony outside his study, phone in hand, jaw locked tight. The silver cufflink lay on the desk behind him, glinting under the warm lamplight. A taunt, a signature, a promise of unfinished business. "Marcus," he said into the phone, his voice low. "Run that engraving through every international database. I don't care if it's private, military, or medical. I want a location within 24 hours. "Yes, sir," came the reply. He ended the call, exhaled slowly, and looked down at the city lights below. Somewhere in that glowing maze, someone was watching her, waiting, and that someone was daring enough to step on his grounds. Inside, Belle was asleep, unaware, her breathing steady, peaceful, her hand resting softly over the pillow where Ethan's scent lingered. She dreamed of simpler days, when life was quiet and the world was kind. But peace in their world was only an intermission. Morning broke pale and gray. The city was damp with the memory of rain. Belle sat at the kitchen island, flipping through a medical text while Mr. O prepared breakfast. She looked up when Ethan entered. He was already dressed, dark suit, open collar, expression unreadable. "You're leaving early," she said softly. He nodded. "Meetings downtown. Are you okay?" He hesitated, then offered a faint smile. "Always." Belle watched him carefully. Something in his tone felt off, controlled, careful. But she didn't press. She knew that look. It meant he was protecting her from something. Again. When he left, She lingered by the window, watching the black car disappear down the long driveway. A flicker of unease stirred in her chest, though she couldn't explain why. Ethan's car cut through the city in silence. Marcus sat beside him, a tablet in hand. "We traced the cufflink to a bespoke craftsman in Geneva," Marcus said. "The buyer used an alias, S. Grant. The same name Dr. Stan used when he booked his flight out of the country." Ethan's eyes darkened. "So he's back?" "Possibly. But there's more. The same alias wired funds to a private research account 6 months ago. The account is linked to a pharmaceutical trial, the same one Belle worked on during her university rotation." Ethan's grip on the steering wheel tightened. "He's targeting her for something connected to that trial. That's our theory. The data was stolen. Someone's trying to erase the original files." Ethan's voice dropped to a dangerous calm. "Then we find the connection before he does." Back at the hospital, Belle tried to focus on her rounds. Patients smiled when she walked in. Her kindness had become a quiet legend among them. But even as she took vitals and adjusted drips, her mind drifted back to the lilies, the card, the feeling of eyes on her from across the street. She couldn't shake it. During lunch, Shine nudged her. "You good? You've been zoning out all day." Belle forced a small laugh. "Just tired." "Girl, you've been just tired since forever. You sure it's not billionaire drama?" Belle smiled faintly. "He's actually been distant lately." Shine raised a brow. "Distant how?" "Like he's there, but not there." Shine leaned closer. "You think he's hiding something?" Belle hesitated. "Maybe. But if he is, it's because he thinks he's protecting me." Shine smirked. "Classic rich guy move. They build you a castle, then fight the monsters alone." Belle looked down at her tray. "Sometimes I wish he'd let me fight with him." That night, Ethan came home late. The lights were low, the air heavy with unspoken tension. Belle was curled up on the couch, book forgotten in her lap. He stopped at the doorway, just watching her. "You're staring again," she said without looking up. He smiled faintly. "Caught me." She closed her book and stood. "You've been quiet lately." "Work." "Don't lie to me, Ethan." He sighed. "Belle." "Don't," she interrupted softly. "If there's something you're hiding, just say it. I can handle the truth. What I can't handle is silence." Ethan looked at her for a long moment. Then he crossed the room, took her hands, and pressed them to his chest. "Someone's been near the house," he said finally. "I didn't want to tell you until I had answers." Her eyes widened. "You think it's him?" "I know it is." Belle's breath caught. "Then why didn't you?" "Because I need you to feel safe. Not hunted." Tears welled in her eyes. "I can't feel safe if you're hiding things from me, Ethan." He brushed a tear from her cheek with his thumb. "I'm trying to protect you." "Then let me stand beside you, not behind you." Her words broke something inside him. For a long moment, he just looked at her, the woman who had walked into his guarded life and taught him how to feel again. Finally, he nodded. "Okay, no more secrets." The next day, they worked together. Ethan showed her the files Marcus had uncovered, the trial documents, the hidden transactions, the stolen research data. Belle's eyes widened as she scanned the names. "This project, I remember it," she said. "It was supposed to be a new neurosedative formula, but it failed in testing." "Failed," Ethan repeated. "Or was sabotaged?" She looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" Ethan leaned over the table, tapping one report. "This patient, sample number 37. The blood work shows traces of an unregistered compound. Something that shouldn't have been there. It looks like someone tampered with the results." Belle frowned. "That's impossible. Only senior researchers had clearance. Stan was one of them." Her stomach dropped. "You think he did it?" Ethan's gaze was cold. "I think he framed you for it." Belle's face went pale. "That's why he's back. He's trying to bury the evidence, and me with it." Ethan's voice hardened. "Not while I'm breathing." Days passed in quiet tension. Ethan's men worked round the clock, tracing bank records, tracking aliases. Belle returned to work as if nothing was wrong, though she could feel the storm building in the distance. Then one afternoon, everything cracked open. Belle was leaving the hospital when a black SUV pulled up across the street. A man stepped out, tall, wearing a cap. For a heartbeat, she thought it was Ethan's driver. Then he looked up. "Dr. Stan." Her blood froze. He smiled, slow, deliberate, and raised his phone, snapping a picture before slipping back into the SUV. Belle ran. By the time she reached the parking lot, the car was gone. Her hands trembled as she dialed Ethan. "He's here," she whispered. "He's in the city. Where are you?" "Hospital gate." "Stay there. Don't move." But when the black car arrived, it wasn't Ethan who stepped out. It was Marcus. "Sir's at a meeting," he said briskly. "He sent me to bring you home." Belle hesitated. Something in Marcus's eyes looked wrong, distant, mechanical. She took a slow step back. "Marcus, where's Ethan?" He didn't answer. And then she saw it, the small earpiece glinting under his collar. "Marcus," she whispered. "Who's giving you orders?" He reached for her arm. "Miss Perez, please." She turned and ran. Traffic blared, horns screamed, tires screeched as she darted across the street, weaving through cars until she vanished into the side alley. Her heart pounded, so loud it drowned out everything else. By the time Ethan reached the hospital, she was gone. He tore through the parking lot, shouting her name, scanning the crowd, calling her phone again and again. No answer. Marcus lay unconscious near the gate, a tranquilizer dart embedded in his neck. Ethan's blood turned to ice. He picked up the dart, recognized the compound instantly, medical-grade sedative. Only one man would use that. "Stan," he whispered. He turned to his guards. "Lock down the city. Every exit, every camera feed, every road." But deep down he knew Stan wouldn't take her far. He'd want Ethan to come for her. When Belle woke, she was in a dimly lit room. Her wrists were bound, her head pounding. The faint hum of machines filled the air. She blinked, trying to focus. Glass walls, metal tables, and the sharp smell of chemicals. A laboratory. A shadow moved in the corner. "Good morning, Miss Perez," said a familiar voice. Dr. Stan stepped into the light, his smile sharp and venomous. "I was beginning to think you'd forgotten about me," he said. "But then again, you always were good at pretending." Belle's voice trembled. "What do you want?" He tilted his head. "The truth. You see, I created something beautiful, something powerful. And you ruined it. I exposed it because it was wrong. You used live patients without consent." He laughed. "You think ethics matter in innovation? You think your billionaire can save you from science?" He leaned close, eyes glinting. "You're going to finish what you started, Belle. You're going to fix my formula, or Ethan Delville will watch you disappear, piece by piece." Across the city, Ethan's convoy tore through the rain-soaked streets. He followed the signal from Belle's phone, faint, fading, moving toward the industrial outskirts. "Marcus!" Ethan said sharply. Marcus stirred weakly in the back seat, still recovering from the sedative. "Sir, he used my voice. My earpiece was hacked. I didn't know." Ethan's voice softened for a moment. "You're not to blame. Just help me find her." Marcus pointed to the tracker. "She's in the old biotech facility by the docks. Building 12. Ethan's eyes narrowed. He chose the place where it all began. Thunder rolled as he arrived. The facility loomed like a carcass of glass and steel, long abandoned, or so it seemed. Dim lights flickered inside, and somewhere, faintly, a woman's scream echoed. Ethan moved like a shadow. Silent, precise, deadly. He found her in the main lab, restrained, trembling, while Stan adjusted a syringe filled with a shimmering blue fluid. "Step away from her," Ethan said, voice low, lethal. Stan turned slowly, smiling. "Ah, the night arrives. I warned you once," Ethan said, pulling the gun from his jacket. "You don't get a second chance." Stan laughed. "You think you can shoot me? You, the billionaire who hides behind lawyers." "I don't need lawyers." He fired. The bullet hit the syringe, shattering it. Blue liquid splattered across the floor, hissing as it burned through the tiles. Stan lunged at him. The two men crashed into the lab table, fists flying, metal clattering, glass shattering. Belle screamed, struggling against her restraints. "Ethan!" Stan grabbed a shard of glass and slashed, catching Ethan's shoulder. Ethan retaliated, driving his knee into Stan's ribs, slamming him against the wall. "End this!" Belle cried. Ethan grabbed the man by the collar, fury and grief colliding in his eyes. "You hurt her. You threatened her life. You're done." Stan laughed weakly, blood trickling from his mouth. You can't stop what's already in motion. Ethan frowned. What are you talking about? Stan's smile twisted. The formula wasn't just chemical. It was digital. And she's the key. His eyes rolled back, and he collapsed, the poison in his own bloodstream taking hold. Ethan turned to Belle, cutting her free. Are you hurt? She shook her head, tears streaming. No. But Ethan, what did he mean? He pulled her close. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. The storm broke open again, drenching the night in chaos. Ethan held her as thunder roared above, his heart steady against hers. But neither of them saw the small red light blinking quietly in the corner, a camera still recording. And somewhere, far away, a computer screen flickered to life. File unlocked. Project Seraphim.